Hi there, today I'm reviewing the Bosch TES 50129RW Bean to Cup coffee machine. As you can see, the Bosch coffee machine is black in colour. It has measurements of width 28, dimensions 47 and height 38. Now the one thing to notice is that it is quite large. If I just turn it sideways and put it onto my worktop, you can see it's standard worktop. It doesn't leave much room at the front. So what I would say is check the measurements and just make sure that it is suitable for your kitchen, as I know it's quite tight in mine, which meant that I had to take some things off the worktop to get it on. Now the Bosch coffee machine is a 15 bar pressure coffee machine with a milk frother on the side and an adjustable spout for your coffee. Now the one thing to notice is when it comes out of the box, it is all set up for you, which is great news, particularly if you want to have a quick coffee. The one thing you do need to do though is give it a quick clean out. Very simple, fill up with fresh water, pull out the milk frother, which sends some water straight through it, cleaning the frother out. And then the recommendation is that you put 2 beans worth of coffees through the machine to make sure that you get the right aroma and taste. Now the water tank on the side holds 1.7 litres, so it's quite big. It is easy to take off. You simply just take it off, fill it up, it has a minimum and a maximum line, and then just pop it back in. Now the water feature does also have the handy feature of having an additional accessory of a water filter, which means that you would get then filtered water every time. Don't worry if you don't. The machine also comes with a hardness test kit, which then dip it into your water and it'll tell you the hardness of your water, so you can then adjust it using the settings on the machine to make sure it knows the correct hardness of the water. Now the one thing I would say is to have a quick read of the manual. Now the manual does look thick, however the English settings are only a few pages long, and it just gives you an idea in terms of the background settings that feature in these. Things like there's an automatic turn off function, which will turn off after a certain amount, between 15 minutes and 4 hours. There's also the function, as I discussed earlier, to set your water hardness. There's a function as well to determine how hot you want the coffee brewed at. And there's a function as well to determine how coarse you want the beans. So I would say read the manual. It is very handy to read it, and then you get to know the button. Now if you look at the machine, it's made up of 2 dials and 3 buttons. The top dial determines what type of espresso or coffee you want to put out of the coffee maker. Now the options are small espresso, espresso, small cafe creme, medium cafe creme or large cafe creme. The other options are to have 2 of each of them, handy for when you've got friends or guests over. The one thing to note though is that it doesn't actually all come out in one go. It does do it in 2 lots. So I did initially try putting a cup on each side, and then took it away only to realise that that was only the first batch of it coming through. So just worth noting if you're doing one of the larger coffees. Now the second function is the strength of the beans you use. Now you can use ground coffee. Ground coffee goes in the machine quite easily into a separate compartment, which is located just to the right hand side. It's a pull out drawer, you just put your ground coffee in there, or you can use coffee beans that have not been ground. I prefer coffee beans, it's an entirely personal choice. Now the settings for the coffee beans are mild, very mild, medium or strong. So if you just set those accordingly, depending on what beans you buy. At the moment I've got medium roast beans. The beans actually go in the top part just here. You just pop them in and pop the lid on, and that's the beans done. Now to actually make the coffees, it's very simple. The 3 buttons on the bottom, you've either got the off button. Now the off button when pressed will run a quick clean through, so you know the machine is clean, ready to use next time you come to turn it on. If you hold your hand on the off button, it actually puts through a cleaning process which takes roughly around 30 minutes, but it does thoroughly clean your machine. Now I'm led to believe that comes on every so often, and it does actually remind you when you need to do it, but it's handy if you feel you need to do it for whatever reason. The next button is the steamer button, the milk frother. which is located here. Now the milk frother also doubles up as a cup warmer. What it will do is if you pull it straight out, it will then put 40 seconds worth of hot water into your mug to heat the sides of the mug to make sure that your coffee is the best aroma it can be. So what you do, you pull it out, put 40 seconds of water in there, and then take the water out, but it means your cup then is warm, ready for your coffee. It also obviously doubles up then as your normal milk frother, so you can get those really nice cappuccinos or lattes or whatever you prefer. And the final button is the start button. The start button is purely for the coffee or the espresso. You press that and then obviously put in where you want your coffee to go, so it does fit different types of mugs, which is quite handy, so there's minimal splash. It only just fits my latte glass, so it's just worth noting that, just to be careful, there's not much manoeuvre there with that. So what I'll do now is I'll make an espresso and show you how easy that is, and then I'll make a latte to show you the milk. So to make an espresso, all you do is get your cup, push it down to the right height, again to make sure you minimise splashback, and just press start. Now, as you can hear, the grinding beans is a little loud. What I would say is that personal experience is that it's not as loud as other machines. Now what you're hearing now is the heater, which will heat the water up. It takes no more than 20 seconds to heat the water up, and then pushes the coffee through at the required boil pressure of 15. And then it pushes any waste into the bottom and ready for your next coffee. So if I just show you that, you should be able to see there that there's a nice cream in there. You can see that cream there? It's a lovely crema there for you. Next up, I'm going to make a latte. Now to make a latte, you obviously need some milk. So I've got a container here. It's worth noting it doesn't come with a container. I did initially start trying to use it with the cups, which although it does work with the cups, I just felt it was a little bit cumbersome. So I got a container, a bit like your coffee shops, just makes it a little bit more simple. So to do that, you press the steam button, and you'll see that the steam button starts to flash. Now there's a little light just here, that when that goes on, the steam light goes on full, on here, it means it's ready. So at the moment, you can hear it just start to heat the water up. Now the lights come on, so what you do, you just pull it out, and then you get your frother. Now I'm just warming the milk up. And when that's done, you just press it in and it stops. Now what I would say is make sure you clean the frother straight away, because it does have a tendency to stain if you don't, so just make sure you do that. Now once that's done, obviously then you pour your milk along with lovely froth at the end. Push your coffee machine up, pop it in, and as before, just click on the start button. And as you can see there, your lovely coffee is made. Now if I just come along a stir. Nice coffee, that. So that was the Bosch TES 50129RW bean to cup machine. Positive points is the coffee tastes great. Once set up, although it is a little long-winded to set up the functions, it is only then a 2-button process. Probably negatives for me is that it is quite large, so do double check. It does take up a lot of workspace. The temperature, I would say, isn't very hot of the coffee, so it's, for me, I prefer it to be extra hot when I have coffee. It's personal preference, but just that function would be good. And it's not digital either. Again, personal preference, it would make it a little bit easier for digital and to make it a one-touch function, although it is only 2 buttons. And finally, I prefer the automatic milk in function. It does take a little bit longer to have to warm your own milk up and do it that way. So that is the Bosch TES 50129RW bean to cup.